Have you ever thought she changed? That she used to smile more, talk more, love more? You assume she's just difficult, moody, or maybe even losing interest. But what if I told you she's not pulling away because she stopped caring? She's pulling away because she stopped feeling safe. In this video, we're about to break down something most men overlook. Not because they're cruel, but because they were never taught to see it. This is not about grand mistakes. It's about the silent ways you unintentionally make her feel invisible. Let's decode the psychology behind emotional neglect, the quiet destroyer of love. If you're a man who truly wants to love better, lead better, and connect deeper, then don't just watch this speech. Reflect on it, because once you understand this, you'll never unsee it again. Ladies and gentlemen, when we talk about pain in relationships, we often imagine the loud moments, the fights, the yelling, the betrayals. But the truth is, the most painful things are often the quietest. And nothing hurts a woman more than emotional neglect. Not because she's weak, not because she's needy, but because, psychologically, she is wired to seek connection, safety, and validation, especially from someone she loves. Now, what does emotional neglect really mean? It's not about forgetting her birthday or not texting back fast enough. It's the repeated absence of emotional presence. It's when she shares her fears, and you brush them off. When she opens up, and you scroll through your phone. When she cries, and you walk away thinking she'll get over it. You see, men are often taught to solve problems, to fix things, to remain calm, rational, and detached. But when a woman is emotionally vulnerable, she's not asking you to solve her. She's asking you to see her. And when she doesn't feel seen, her brain doesn't just get sad. It goes into protective mode. Psychologists call it emotional withdrawal. It's her way of silently grieving a connection she once trusted. Now, let's look at this from a neurological point of view. When a woman feels emotionally dismissed, it triggers her amygdala, the brain's fear center. This can activate stress hormones like cortisol, leading to anxiety, emotional confusion, and even physical symptoms like fatigue or insomnia. Not because she's dramatic, but because her nervous system is literally responding to emotional danger. And the real problem? It happens in layers. She doesn't shut down all at once. First, she pauses before sharing something vulnerable. Then, she chooses to keep it to herself instead of bothering you. Then, she begins to question whether her emotions are even valid. Eventually, she gives up on trying. And by the time she stops complaining, it's already too late. Because she's now silent not out of peace, but out of emotional exhaustion. Here's what most men miss. She didn't stop talking because she's okay. She stopped talking because she no longer believes it will make a difference. That's emotional neglect. It's not just ignoring her once. It's a pattern of failing to hold emotional space for her, again and again, until she fades into someone you no longer recognize. But here's the hard truth. By the time you ask, why doesn't she love me like before? She's already been mourning that love for months, maybe even years. And men often say, but I never cheated. I never hurt her. I was just busy. But what they don't understand is neglect is a form of emotional absence that feels like rejection. And rejection, to a woman who once felt emotionally safe with you, is not just hurtful. It's traumatic. So what can you do? You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be present. When she speaks, listen without defense. When she's quiet, notice. Ask. Don't minimize her feelings. Validate them. Don't offer quick fixes. Offer attention. Because to her, emotional safety is love. It's not found in roses or apologies. It's found in moments when she feels heard, held, and respected. Let's be honest. This isn't just about women. This is about human connection. But women, by design and culture, are often more emotionally expressive. And when that expression is consistently ignored, it doesn't just damage the relationship. It damages her belief in intimacy itself. Ladies and gentlemen, if there's one thing to remember from this speech, let it be this. A woman rarely leaves because she stopped loving. She leaves because she stopped feeling loved. Not in your words, but in your emotional presence. And once that presence is gone, all that's left is silence. The kind of silence that doesn't ask for attention because it's already learned how to survive without it. There's a certain kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, but it builds walls, invisible ones. And most men never even realize they're helping build them. It happens in everyday conversations. She says, "I feel like you don't care anymore." And he replies, "You're overthinking it." She says, "I'm hurt by the way you said that." And he responds, "Why are you so sensitive?" In that moment, he believes he's calming the situation down. But in her world, something much deeper is happening. Something psychological, something emotional, and something permanent. What's happening is invalidation. When someone shares how they feel and the response they receive either downplays it, mocks it, or dismisses it altogether, that's emotional invalidation. It doesn't need to be cruel. It doesn't even need to be intentional. But it creates damage all the same. You see, when a woman opens up about how she feels, she's not just expressing emotion, she's trusting you with her vulnerability. She's showing you the unfiltered version of her heart. That version is raw, imperfect, and deeply human. And when that version is met with rejection or minimization, she internalizes a painful message. My feelings don't matter here. Psychologically, this triggers something called emotional suppression. Over time, the brain learns that expressing pain leads to punishment, not comfort. So she starts holding it in. She stops being fully honest about how she feels. And instead of processing her pain, she buries it behind smiles, silence, and distance. She may still stay in the relationship. She may still go through the motions, but she'll slowly detach, not because she wants to, but because it's the only way to protect herself. And here's the irony. Many men believe that invalidating her feelings is the way to keep things calm. They say things like, "You're overreacting," or "It's not that serious," to avoid deeper emotional conflict. But all it does is send her a louder message. This space is not emotionally safe. That kind of message creates a specific kind of damage. It's called emotional distancing. And it's not loud. It doesn't come with warnings or arguments. It comes with quiet withdrawal, with shorter answers. With, "I'm fine," when she's really not. With, "It's okay," when she's still hurting inside. And the worst part? Most men only notice something's wrong when the relationship already feels cold. By then, she's not emotionally unavailable. She's emotionally exhausted. What a lot of people don't realize is that for many women, emotional connection is the foundation of love. If that foundation cracks again and again, without repair, eventually, she stops trying to rebuild it. Now let's talk psychology. The brain thrives on validation, especially in moments of vulnerability. When someone says, "That sounds hard," "I hear you," "I'm here for you," it activates feelings of safety, of being seen and emotionally understood. But when that validation is replaced by judgment or indifference, the brain registers rejection. And consistent emotional rejection leads to something far more dangerous than anger. It leads to disconnection. Disconnection doesn't mean she stops caring. It means she stops feeling safe to care out loud. And here's the truth. A woman would rather cry in private than feel mocked in conversation. She would rather suffer in silence than be told one more time that she's too emotional. And eventually, she will learn to stop coming to you with her heart. Not because she doesn't have one anymore, but because you didn't know how to hold it. So what's the solution? It's not complicated. You don't have to agree with her feelings to validate them. You don't even have to fully understand them to respect them. Sometimes, all she needs to hear is, "I didn't realize you felt that way, but thank you for telling me." Or, "I may not get it, but I don't want you to feel alone with it." That small shift in response, it's powerful. It tells her, "You're safe here. Your emotions are allowed. And I care, even when I don't fully understand." Ladies and gentlemen, love is not built on grand gestures. It's built on small moments of emotional respect. Every time she opens up, you're being handed something sacred. You can choose to shut it down, or you can choose to honor it. Because when a woman stops sharing her feelings with you, it's not a sign of peace. It's a sign of quiet resignation. And the hardest truth of all, once emotional walls go up, love has to climb to reach her. But it didn't have to be that way. It only happened because her heart wasn't protected when she handed it to you. And in the end, it was never about her being too sensitive. It was always about you not being sensitive enough to see how deeply she feels. It rarely starts as an obvious mistake. In fact, most people don't even realize they're doing it. But one of the most underestimated emotional injuries a woman can experience in a relationship is being compared, even subtly, to someone else. It could be your ex. It could be a friend. It could be someone you both follow on social media. It could even be the ideal version of her that exists only in your mind. But the moment comparison enters the room, self-worth quietly begins to exit. You might not say it directly. Maybe it's a casual comment. She's so fit, look at her dedication. Or, my ex used to love reading books like that. Or even, you used to dress like that in the beginning. To you, it may seem harmless. But to her, it feels like a silent message. You're not enough. Here's the truth that psychology teaches us. Women, especially those in intimate relationships, are emotionally wired to seek reassurance through connection. That doesn't mean insecurity. It means that in love, they look for signs that they're appreciated, valued, and desired as they are, not as who they could be if they changed. When a woman feels compared, even unintentionally, her internal dialogue shifts from "am I loved" to "am I being measured?" That shift may not show on her face. She may even smile and brush it off. But inside, she begins to question her worth. Her mind starts analyzing the things you seem to notice in others. And slowly, without you even realizing it, she begins to disconnect from her own confidence. Psychologically, this is tied to something called social comparison theory. The idea that people evaluate their own value and success by comparing themselves to others. But when that comparison comes from the person they love the most, it hits differently. It doesn't just trigger jealousy. It activates shame. Not the kind that says, "I wish I had that," but the kind that whispers, "I'll never be enough for him." And that shame doesn't always lead to confrontation. It often leads to withdrawal. She starts dressing differently. Not because she wants to feel good, but because she's wondering what version of herself you want today. She becomes quieter in conversations. Not because she has nothing to say, but because she's afraid her thoughts won't be as exciting as the ones you hear from someone else. She stops initiating intimacy. Not because she's lost desire, but because she's afraid of not being desired back in the same way. This kind of slow erosion is dangerous because it rarely looks like an argument. It looks like silence. It looks like overthinking. It looks like her saying, "I'm tired," when what she really means is, "I don't feel good enough for you anymore." It's easy to dismiss her reactions as too much, but the truth is, her reaction isn't about that one comment you made. It's about the pattern, the energy, the unspoken expectations, the fear that she's being quietly replaced by an image she can never fully live up to. This isn't about controlling your thoughts or pretending other people don't exist. It's about emotional responsibility, knowing that the way you admire others, even innocently, carries meaning in a woman's emotional world. You don't have to fake attraction. You just need to be conscious of the message you're sending. Because when she feels like she's being compared, she doesn't just feel second best. She feels disposable. And once a woman starts feeling disposable, her guard goes up, her heart closes, her spark fades. Not because she wants to stop loving, but because love stops feeling safe. The most dangerous thing about comparisons is that they don't push her to improve. They push her to question whether she ever had value to begin with. Think about this. Most women are already comparing themselves silently to the world every day. Society tells them how to look, how to act, how to love, how to age. They fight those voices constantly. But when that same doubt comes from the person they trust most, it doesn't just hurt, it confirms their worst fears. What she needs isn't perfection. She doesn't need to be your ex. She doesn't need to be the girl online with the perfect body. She doesn't need to be more like your ideal version of her. What she needs is to be loved for who she is today, in her now, not in her potential. You want her to glow? Make her feel like no one compares to her. You want her to open up? Create a space where she knows she doesn't have to compete. You want her to love you without fear? Love her without conditions. Because comparison may not leave bruises, but it leaves questions that echo in her mind long after you've forgotten the words you said. And those questions can undo her sense of self, one thought at a time. So the next time you feel the urge to mention someone else's beauty or confidence or lifestyle, ask yourself first, Is what I'm about to say going to make her feel seen or replaced? Because if she ever starts to feel like she's not enough, you may lose her long before she walks away. There's a certain kind of emotional confusion that doesn't come from being unloved. It comes from being loved inconsistently. One day, she feels like your entire world. The next day, she feels like a stranger in it. And that fluctuation, that unpredictable pattern of affection, begins to mess with her sense of emotional safety. You might think love is still there. You might argue that you're still present, still committed, still showing up in your own way. But when your affection only arrives in moments, in bursts, in reactions, it doesn't register in her as stability. It registers as doubt. Women, by emotional design, seek consistency in connection. This doesn't mean they expect constant attention or endless romance. What they crave, what they're wired to feel secure in, is emotional rhythm. They want to know that the warmth they receive from you today won't turn cold tomorrow without explanation. When your affection switches on and off like a light, her nervous system goes into overdrive. Her mind begins analyzing every gesture, every text, every delay in response. Not because she wants to, but because her brain is trying to predict whether it's safe to open up or better to protect herself. This mental overprocessing is a sign of emotional instability, not within her, but around her. One day, you hold her hand like she's the only one in the world. You say things that melt her fears. You give her a version of you that makes her believe she's deeply valued. And then, suddenly, the next day you pull back. Not completely, just enough for her to notice the shift. Maybe you're quiet. Maybe you're distracted. Maybe you act like nothing's wrong, but she can feel the emotional door slowly closing. To her, that change doesn't feel small. It feels dangerous, because now she begins questioning what triggered it. Was it something she said? Did she do something wrong? Is she being too much? Or is she just not enough anymore? She starts blaming herself. Not because she's dramatic, but because inconsistency makes love feel conditional. And when love feels conditional, self-blame becomes the only way to understand it. This kind of emotional inconsistency doesn't just confuse her, it exhausts her. It puts her in a cycle where she's constantly trying to measure how safe she is in your heart today, where she can't tell if she should lean in or hold back, where she becomes more focused on not losing you than actually enjoying you. Over time, this leads to emotional burnout. She becomes emotionally tired of second-guessing, of hoping for the version of you that shows up on your good days, and trying to survive the version that forgets how to be present. The emotional highs feel amazing, but the lows are deeply unsettling, and the unpredictability turns a relationship into a guessing game instead of a safe space. Psychologically, inconsistency in affection mimics what researchers call intermittent reinforcement, a pattern where rewards come at unpredictable times. It's the same principle used in gambling machines. It creates emotional addiction. You don't know when you'll receive the validation again, so you hold on even tighter, hoping the next moment will give you the love you miss. It's not romantic, it's survival. That's what inconsistent affection does to her. It keeps her waiting, hoping, doubting, repeating the cycle until she either becomes completely numb or completely dependent on the rare moments you give her the love she craves. And maybe that's not your intention. Maybe your affection changes with your mood, your stress levels, or your environment. But your inconsistency doesn't feel logical to her. It feels personal. It feels like rejection in disguise. It feels like instability in the one place where she wants to feel most secure. You might not even notice it. Because for you, love may be something you feel and express based on the moment. But for her, love is something she feels when your effort is steady, not sudden. When your warmth isn't reserved for special occasions, but offered even on ordinary days. The truth is, you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to be overly romantic. But you do have to be consistent. Not just in what you do, but in how present you are emotionally, mentally, and affectionately. Because nothing confuses a woman more than mixed signals from a man she trusts. Nothing makes her question her value more than inconsistency from someone who once made her feel chosen. And nothing pushes her away faster than realizing that the love she receives today might disappear tomorrow, without reason, without warning. If she ever starts to withdraw, Stop asking what's wrong with her and start asking when you stop being steady. Because most of the time, she's not cold. She's just tired of chasing a version of you that shows up when it's convenient and disappears when it's not. Love isn't about grand gestures once in a while. It's about the quiet promise that says, even when I'm busy, tired, or overwhelmed, you still matter to me. That's what creates security. That's what makes her stay. That's what makes her trust that this love won't vanish when life gets difficult. Inconsistent affection teaches her that your love is a moving target. Consistent love teaches her that no matter what changes around her, you won't. And that makes all the difference. We often believe that love is lost in loud moments, in breakups, in fights, in final words. But in reality, most love stories don't end with a bang. They end quietly. In the small moments where presence was replaced with distraction, where connection was replaced with confusion, where feelings were dismissed, compared, or ignored, a woman doesn't stop loving overnight. She stops loving in layers. She pulls back slowly, each time she feels unseen, unheard, or emotionally unsafe. And by the time you realize she's changed, she's already adapted to living without the version of you she once trusted. Emotional neglect, invalidation, comparison, inconsistency. These aren't just issues, they're silent relationship killers. Not because they hurt her once, but because they chip away at her core over time. Her sense of self, her sense of worth, her belief in the love you once made her feel safe in. This isn't about blaming men. This is about raising awareness. Because no one teaches us how to hold space for someone else's heart. No one teaches us that a woman's silence is often the loudest sign of emotional damage. No one tells us that presence means more than promises. But now you know. Now you see what most overlook. And now you have a choice. A choice to love her with consistency, not convenience. To listen, not just hear. To validate, not dismiss. To protect her from doubt, not become the source of it. Because when a woman feels emotionally safe, she doesn't just love you, she transforms beside you. But when she feels emotionally unsafe, she slowly becomes a version of herself that no longer believes in us. If she's still there, still trying, still hoping, don't wait for her to go silent. Speak love while she can still hear it. Show up before she stops expecting it. Because the most painful goodbye isn't the one she says out loud. It's the one she made silently, months before she ever walked away. So, if you truly want to love her, make her feel seen, every day, in every way. Because that's not just what she wants. That's what she remembers.